While the 9 kings and queens of the Supreme Court mull over the fate of Obamacare, the rest of the world is looking at us like we're friggin' crazy. As John Hudson over at the Atlantic Wire sums up, the idea that health care coverage, largely considered a universal right in Europe, could be deemed an affront to liberty is baffling. First, the UK, where the Supreme Court cannot strike down laws, is weighing in on what's going on over here. The Guardian's Kevin Powell published a column last week saying, wasn't the point to make sure the richest and most powerful nation on the planet could protect its own people as other nations do? If Americans are promised not just liberty, but life and happiness, is there not a constitutional right to affordable health care? The Germans are getting into the game, too, calling us crazy. Columnist Sabine Muscat wrote about the absurdity in the Supreme Court health debate in the German Financial Times, asking rhetorically, if the government could require people to take out health insurance, could they not then be forced to also buy broccoli? The analogy of broccoli has been dragging on through the long debate about the American health care reform. But putting aside judicial review for the moment and the fate of Obamacare, the big picture here is this. The world thinks we're crazy because, well, we're crazy. The United States is so far out of the mainstream with the rest of the world, and today's Republican Party only wants to take us further in the opposite direction. Think about it for a second. We're the only developed nation in the world that doesn't hold health care as a basic human right. We're also the only developed nation where any politician thinks there's any controversy about global warming. We're the only developed nation that still uses the death penalty. We're the only one that regards corporations as people and lets millionaires and billionaires buy elections and politicians. We're one of the only developed nations in the world that doesn't guarantee all workers a minimum number of vacations and sick days. And when it comes to preparing for the future, our national insanity really kicks into high gear as Germany readies for the largest investment in clean energy since World War II, with a massive new system of solar panels and a 21st century national smart grid. The United States is still debating dirty 19th century oil pipelines like Keystone. As China builds 21st century high-speed rail lines all across their country, the United States has yet to lay even 1 mile of high-speed rail anywhere on the continent. Today we have a $2 trillion infrastructure deficit, meaning 19th and 20th century roads, bridges, water systems, and railways across the nation need $2 trillion worth of repairs just to keep them alive, while Republicans in Congress are trying to cut even that. And that $2 trillion deficit is just to update 1950s infrastructure, Eisenhower's infrastructure. It doesn't include a penny to build 21st century infrastructure like the rest of the world is doing, with massive new solar plants, sprawling wind farms, an efficient new energy grid, high-tech localized water treatment plants, high-speed rail. In this country, we're instead debating whether to keep alive 20th century infrastructure projects. And 21st century infrastructure? Not even part of the discussion. Now, maybe the United States could justify this stark departure from the mainstream if we were actually producing decent results, maximizing wealth, providing better qualities of life, making the United States more competitive in the global marketplace, and maybe we could take some comfort in what President Reagan said about us, that we're an exceptional nation. But here's the thing. We're not doing as well as the rest of the developed world in most indicators. As the 34-nation group known as the OECD, the Organization for Cooperation and Economic Development, uncovered, the United States ranks 29th out of 34 nations in safety, with enormous homicides and assault rates. We rank 23rd in work-life balance. We work more hours a year than all the rest of the developed nations in the world. We rank 16th in overall health and have a life expectancy rate of nearly 78 years, which is a full year below the average of other developed nations. We rank 18th in the cleanliness of our environment. We rank 20th in the strength of our communities. We rank 18th in joblessness and long-term unemployment. So it's pretty clear. Whatever we're doing that's different from the rest of the developed world, it's not working. And with Reaganomics and Bushonomics, we just kept doing the same thing over and over and over again for the last 30 years. And Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, they want us to keep doing it for another decade. We've been cutting taxes for the rich, ripping apart the social safety net, giving corporations more influence on our government, and denying what science is telling us. And each and every time we expect these policies to make us all better off, they haven't. They've only made the top 1% better off. And as the old saying goes, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We've gone insane, and the rest of the world recognizes it. The only question is, how long until the majority of American voters recognize that insanity and kick the crazies out of office?